Hey everyone, I'm Mohammed Bilal and welcome to Beyond the Basics. Now this series is really for those of you in clinical data management, maybe 2 or 3 years in, and you're starting to ask yourself, okay, what's next for me? Well, you're in the right place. We're going to break down exactly how you can make that next big leap in your career, and we're starting right now.
Look, your first couple of years, it was all about learning the ropes, right? Executing tasks, following the process, getting good at the basics. But to really move up, that's got to change. The journey you're on now is about something bigger. It's about stepping into ownership, leadership, and real influence. You know, it's a huge shift in how you think, and that's really the core of what this whole series is about.
So, let's talk about your journey so far, because it's so important. You've spent the last 2, maybe 3 years really mastering the fundamentals of CDM. And let's be clear, that experience is way more than just a line on your resume. It's the rock-solid foundation for everything that's coming next. Every single task you've done has been preparing you for this.
Okay, so this slide really gets to the heart of it. This is the big career leap we're talking about. As an associate, your whole world was about executing tasks, checking boxes. But in that intermediate role, the game changes completely. Your focus shifts to driving outcomes. You know, you're not just responsible for your one little piece of the puzzle anymore. You're starting to become accountable for what the final picture looks like. It's a huge difference.
So how do you make that leap? Well, it all comes down to one critical change. You have to develop an ownership mindset. And believe me, this is so much more than just doing your job well. It's about starting to see the bigger picture, anticipating what's needed before you're asked, and really taking proactive responsibility for the success of your project.
Okay, ownership. It's a great word, but what does it actually mean in our world? Well, if you look at the good clinical data management practices, it really boils down to one word: accountability. It means you're the one making sure the work lines up with the plan. You're the one making sure the quality and the final outcome are what they need to be. In your area of responsibility, the buck stops with you.
All right, let's make this super practical. Ownership isn't just some vague idea. It's a process you can follow. It starts with step 1. You see the issue. You don't wait for someone to assign it to you. Then, step 2. You analyze its impact. How could this affect our timelines, our data quality, the budget? Now, step 3 is crucial. You don't just point out the problem, you propose a solution. And then, of course, you communicate the plan and you stick with it all the way through to make sure it's actually resolved. See? It's a concrete set of actions.
So what does this actually look like day to day? How does having this ownership mindset really change what you do? Well, it shifts your whole approach from just doing tasks to thinking strategically. Let me show you a really practical example of this.
A great way to think about this is with a RACI chart. You've probably seen these. As a junior, you were almost always the R, responsible. You were the one doing the work, like running the edit checks. But when you move into that intermediate or lead role, you become the A, accountable. You're now accountable for the success of that whole activity. And look at problem solving. You go from just being consulted to being the one who is accountable for getting it fixed. That is a major, major step up.
And you know what happens when you start taking on that accountability? It naturally leads to the next phase of your growth, developing real influence and leadership, even if you don't have the official title yet. It's all about earning the trust of the entire team, and you do that through your competence and your proactive communication.
So to build that influence, you're going to need a new toolkit of skills. Being technically great at CDM isn't enough anymore. You've got to get really good at communication, at managing risk before it becomes a problem, and at facilitating collaboration between different teams. Basically, you have to start thinking and acting like a project leader.
Now, I know this might sound like a lot to take on, but don't worry. That's exactly why we're doing this series. The whole point is to give you a clear roadmap, a path forward. We're going to break down exactly how you build these skills one by one so you can step confidently into that next role.
And just to give you a little taste of what's coming up, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. We'll talk about overseeing a database build, how to handle those really tricky mid-study changes, managing external data. We're even going to prep you for that all-important lead CDM interview and look at what comes after. Seriously, we've got you covered.
Okay, so that's the big picture of where we're going. But a journey always starts with one step, right? So the question is, what can you do today to start making that shift from just executing tasks to truly owning outcomes? All right, I've got a pro tip for you, something you can start doing the minute this explainer is over. Start a knowledge journal. I'm serious. For every single study you work on, don't just write down your tasks. Write down what you're learning.
Note the challenges you face, the solutions you find, and how your role is growing. This little habit of reflection, it's going to be your secret weapon come interview time. It is so powerful.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. What are the key things to remember? First, that next step in your career is a leap from executing tasks to owning outcomes. Second, ownership really just means accountability for the quality and success of a project. Third, these intermediate roles demand leadership skills, things like communication and risk management. And finally, your journey to lead starts right now with being intentional about what you're learning.
So I'm going to leave you with one final question to think about. Take a look at your to-do list for tomorrow. What is one task on there that you're just responsible for? Now, how could you start taking true ownership of it? Really think about that, because that simple shift is exactly where your growth is going to start.
Hey, if this was helpful for you, do me a favor and hit that like button, share it, and definitely subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part of this series. We've got new explainers going live every single Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.